Joining me now with more is the White House border czar, Tom Homan. Tom, thanks so much for joining us today. Look, ICE officers, people in Homeland Security, local law enforcement, trying to enforce the law. They're trying to actually implement the law. And oftentimes I hear about, oh, they're going after the migrant population. No, they're going against the illegal immigrant population. That's the point. These operations that are coming down now, how are you going to be able to fight back against this very concerted effort to make sure that they are coached and given warning to try to get out of the way? How do you fight against that?
Well, first of all, we got President Trump, who's one strong president. He proves every day why he's the greatest president in my lifetime. He's a strong president. He's keeping his foot on the gas. He's not letting up. And so be the men and women of ICE and the men and women of the Border Patrol. Today, Jason, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation right now because of President Trump's leadership and the men and women of the Border Patrol. But we also have the most secure border in history because of the work of ICE. ICE is sending a message to the whole world that there are consequences for entering the country illegally. There are consequences for being here illegally. And there are consequences, especially for being here illegally and committing crimes. So ICE is focusing on public safety threats. And I looked at the numbers this morning. 70% of everybody ICE arresting is a criminal. The other 30% are gang members who don't have criminal histories, national security threats, we're arresting them by the thousands, and those with final orders. They had due process at great taxpayer expense. A federal judge ordered them removed. They become fugitives. We're looking for them too. So how do we send that message? We send the message by looking at the numbers again this morning. We got a historic number of prosecutions for 111. That is impediment, assault, interference. So if they cross that line, you throw a stone, you're going to jail. You put hands on an ICE officer, you're going to jail. You make a threat, either online or in person, you're going to jail. And President Trump has made it clear to me over a month ago, zero tolerance. You cross that line and move from a protester to a criminal, zero tolerance. You will be prosecuted. And Pam Bondi has got all the U.S. attorneys across the nations on board. They will not decline these prosecutions. So my warning to them, you can protest all you want. Exercise your First Amendment rights. You cross that line, you're going to jail.
So those protesters that we do see, I mean, some of it might be organic, but it does strike me that it seems like a lot of them are being bussed in. You see them at the end of these protests actually getting back on buses. Are these protesters, the bulk of them, are they actually being financed from the outside? And is that something that Homeland's looking at, is the financing of how all these so-called organic protests are happening?
Absolutely. We know a lot of these protesters are being paid. Many of them admitted to it. So yes, there's a whole effort right now in identifying those who are funding these operations, those who fund the weapons that are being used. So yeah, and they'll be held accountable too and held to the highest standards of the law. They will be prosecuted too. Look, here's what people need to understand. ICE is enforcing the laws enacted by Congress. They're appropriated funding to enforce these laws. If you don't like what ICE does, then go protest Congress, because we're not making this stuff up. And what's most insulting, you got members of Congress comparing ICE to Nazis and terrorists and racists. Well, if they're racist for enforcing the law, what's that make them? They wrote the law. So members of Congress, everyone that wants to attack ICE are disgusting. They're an embarrassment to the position they hold. They're members of Congress. If they don't like what ICE is doing, then do your job and legislate. Until then, President Trump and the men and women of ICE are going to continue to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats and make this country safer every day.
Yeah, you make a good point. I once upon a time served in Congress, and I was on the Judiciary Committee. I was on the subcommittee on immigration. Guess what? Democrats had the House and Senate and the presidency. Do you know how many hearings they held? 2. One was with Stephen Colbert. The other one was to take the class photo. Do you know how many pieces of legislation they moved through to try to change the immigration laws that they are so upset about now? 0. So you make a great point about that.
Exactly.
Let me ask you about the immigration judges, though, because in order to process the deportation and get the deportation numbers up, you not only have to lock down the border, which amazingly has been done. I mean, under President Trump's leadership, that has been amazing how quickly that was done and the good work that you've done. Enforcement, we start to see that in real time. But then they go before a judge. and an immigration judge, but it does seem to be a bit of a backlog there. There was a backlog in the starting point, but what are you doing to loosen that up so that people can get processed and then deported even quicker?
Well, we're looking at that backlog every day. I'm on a phone call with a lot of leaders. One of those leaders is one oversees immigration courts. So we're trying to find efficiencies in the process. DOD is assigning a lot of lawyers and judges over to help, increase the number of judges, increase the number of hearings per day. But one of the things we're doing, Jason, that no one's talking about, is that, there's been several studies done so far this year that over 1.5 million illegal aliens have left this country. And why have they left this country? Because of President Trump and his policies. Like I said a few minutes ago, we're showing the world there's consequences. Every day the world sees over 1,000 ICE teams on the street enforcing the law, applying consequences. It's a crime to enter this country illegally. And when you get order removed by a federal judge, we're looking for you. And if you're in the country illegally, maybe you haven't been order removed, but you're in the country illegally, we're looking for you too. So this message we send to the whole world is a big part of the reason we have the most secure border in the world, in the history of this nation, and people don't want to make that journey, make the risk. And also, it's forcing illegal aliens to make a choice. Do you want to be sought out and arrested by ICE and be formally deported, which means you can't come back in the country under certain statutory bars from 5 years to never? Or do you want to leave on your own and give yourself an opportunity to come back under a legal program as a visitor visa, a work visa, maybe have a U.S. citizen child that can petition from you? So over 1.5 million illegal aliens already left. On count of the probably close to 400,000 deportation we're going to do by the end of this fiscal year. Well, this is amazing. It's unprecedented, and it's because of the leadership of this president.
Well, some of these people here illegally, they're about to earn themselves a trip to the Panhandle Pokey, which I think people are going to start to hear about, one of the largest facilities there in Florida on their way out of the country. Tom Homan, the border czar, thank you so much for joining us on Sunday Morning Futures.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.